Morning, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for another one of our bi-weekly, for the record, excuse me, get off to a tough start here. Thanks for joining us for one of our bi-weekly, for the record, St. Albans Today shows. Happy to have Brendan Deso, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman, and St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Morning, gentlemen.
Hello, Richard.
I guess we were talking about a little bit off the air. Brendan and Tim, I'll start with Brendan. Trust you were as impressed as I was with that incredibly informative debate last night of the presidential candidates. How grim was that? Huh?
That was disgusting. I feel bad for people like Tim who had to try to explain that to their kids. I mean, I couldn't imagine coming of age in, 2008 and then 2012, and then you get 2016 was a little bit of a degradation, but still not as bad as last night. That was disgusting. Chris Wallace deserves a medal for being able to sit through 90 minutes of that without getting up.
I guess you could say that. I don't think he did a good job, but I would quickly add that good luck to anybody. Good luck to anybody being able to deal with that.
I don't know, you fact check everything they had to say. I don't support the Green New Deal. It's the first thing on his website. It's a framework for an economic and climate change policy. Then you get a sitting U.S. president that can't let somebody get 2 minutes uninterrupted, and
It was pretty grim. Did your kids, did they take a stab at that last night, Tim? Do you know?
I don't know, Richard. I was out of the house.
I hope you weren't at home. Hopefully not.
As I shared with you earlier, I only caught probably about 15 minutes.
Yeah, you're consider yourself lucky.
But Chris Wallace, I don't think anyone would have blamed him if he got up and threw his hands up and said, "Okay, gentlemen, we're done."
That would have been one of the amazing moments in TV had he done that.
We're done, gentlemen. Let's pack it in.
Anyway, let's move on. I guess let's start with USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Again, is that situation pretty solidified now, or not clear still?
It seems to be. I mean, we haven't gotten official word.
Of course, the new federal fiscal year starts actually tomorrow.
Yeah.
October 1st.
There's been no further rumblings. I haven't heard anything. I thought they got through the year, so
Yeah. Brendan, you picking up any info on that?
Yeah, I thought I read that Congressman Welch had worked with Senator Leahy to make sure that there was funding for U.S.
It sounds like they did secure some funding and were raising some fees or something.
And they keep doing these stopgap bills. I mean, we're 20 years, we haven't had a balanced budget in 20 years. We haven't had anything that looks reasonably like a budget in the last, 6 years. It's it's ridiculous. I mean, we're lucky in Vermont. We had something that happened. Our legislature adjourned a special session with a bipartisan budget that passed almost unanimously. That's common practice for us. I mean, it happens almost every year. Yeah. We can't get Congress to pass more than, they raise the debt ceiling and they pass, a year's worth of funding max. Usually it's a series of months. Yeah. I mean, we're lucky that what's happening in Washington isn't quite happening in Montpelier. There's a lot of crazy, screwed up things that do happen in Montpelier, but I don't know. I don't mean to keep bringing up the debate, but we had a sitting U.S. president tell a group with white nationalist connections to stand by and stand ready. Stand back and stand by. I mean, I don't know. I'm disgusted with the national scene. I feel very fortunate to live in a state that has a little bit of common sense and decency.
Yeah, there you go. Let's bring it back to recent action by the town. I guess you cast a tie-breaking vote to approve a stormwater utility for St. Albans Town.
I did.
Were you surprised? So that was a 3-2 vote?
I wasn't shocked. I mean, if you look at the makeup of our board, we've got 2 conservatives and 2 folks that are fairly liberal, and then I try to sit on the fence. And I said it at the meeting right before I voted that if I was a regular board member, I probably would have voted against the utility as it sat because it doesn't have a credit system in place to take into account the people who are meeting their stormwater obligations by building and cleaning and maintaining and paying the renewal fees and the maintenance costs of their stormwater systems. They shouldn't have to pay as much as the average person who maybe lives in a development with an inactive stormwater.
And at this point, it looks like it'll come down to an annual fee for each.
So the way it's figured now, and it could change between now and the time the first bill goes out, which I don't foresee happening until we send our next round of tax bills in July of next year. Yeah. You've got $65 per residential unit, which is, the city's I think is 30, but we're still a little bit lower than Burlington. The idea was put it at 65, and then have it there so that it won't go up over time. You know, the idea is that that's a fee that'll be able to hold solid for 5 to 10 years. And then we won't have a staff and we won't have the projects in place to take up all of that money that'll come in the first few years. So it'll help the utility build a fund balance. That way, you know, if we run a year where we have an opportunity to do something and we don't get a grant, we've got a fund balance, we can go get it done. I mean, this all stems from the fact that the EPA told the state of Vermont, you have to get your watersheds fixed up. And the state of Vermont then turned around and said, we don't have the money for that, EPA, and the EPA said, good luck. So the state of Vermont, in their vast wisdom, told municipalities with very impaired watersheds, here's an MS4 program, here's your permit, you got 20 years to get in compliance. The town's clock started ticking in 2015. We have till 2035, and the projects are going to cost about $5 million. We've barely bitten off the tip of the iceberg. We've been trying to fix Tanglewood and to help the folks on Meadowbrook Lane. That stormwater pond off Tanglewood overflows and floods people's backyards and basements on Meadowbrook. It's a disaster over there.
Perhaps even as we speak with for a change, some real heavy rain.
I'm sure I've got a few angry emails to look forward to reading when I get to work today. But we keep applying for grants. The construction budget was off last year. We got a grant. We put it out to bid. The bid came back too high. We had to send the grant back. We apply for the same grant this year with the right money. We don't get the grant. Another year goes by, no excavation. So we have to, at some point, realize that the state of Vermont will not save us. The federal government, if you watched last night, sure as hell isn't going to be in any position to save us in any time in the near future. So we've got to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and the most equitable way to do it was to do it with a utility, because a utility bill is not a tax bill. So there's tax-exempt organizations like the hospital and the school districts that create a lot of impervious surface and a lot of storm water, and they're going to pay into this the same as you and I. That way, you know, if we put the same funding, whether it's 250 or 300,000 in the general fund, it wouldn't be paid by those folks.
So again, the town's kind of started this process.
We've been working on it for years, and we've had consultants who were slow. The planning commission took a great deal of time with purpose. I don't mean anything by that, but it's time that we start, funding some of our local obligations, and at the same time, we have to say that we're investing our money here locally. What's the state of Vermont going to do about our impaired watersheds in the Bay and Missisquoi Bay and along Maquam Shore and along Georgia Shore?
Let me flip over to the city. Tim, the city started this as a longtime city resident. As part of my quarterly water sewer bill, there's an extra charge now with that stormwater utility issue, I believe.
Correct. It was probably 18 months ago we started it.
Sounds about right, yeah.
We haven't done anything specifically yet with the funding, but we are looking at a good-sized project on Lower Weldon Street, potentially utilizing the Green Mountain Power cooling ponds that are across from the Immigration Center. So that's one of the bigger ones that we're having discussions on and speaking to engineers about to see how we might be able to utilize that property for the purpose of collecting runoff and detaining it.
So just basically at this point, getting some money together for a future project?
Yeah, I mean, that one's pretty big. To Brendan's point, we'd still be looking for grant dollars as well to, there's many times you have a match, and we'll utilize our utility funds for matches on grants and that type of things.
Right. As I think about it, again, tomorrow, October 1st, when the LOT, local option tax, goes into effect in St. Albans City tomorrow, correct?
Yes, we had some discussions about that yesterday. We don't think the state has done a good job of educating.
Really?
We sort of, I had asked about it a couple of times and said the state will control the notification and the education, and as far as I know, they sent out one flyer back in mid-September.
Boy, nothing I've seen.
No, I think it was more directed at businesses themselves, because I got one at FCIDC.
Which would make sense.
But I think, I don't think a lot of people are ready for it, just because they weren't aware of it as much as anything.
And again, they'll see like phone bills, they'll see an extra charge and things like phone bills, correct?
Right. So the state was supposedly to take the lead on it, but I don't know that they've done a very good job at it. I don't know if the COVID comes into play. I know I've had conversations about state agencies and many of them not back to work and trying to, trying to access information, the example I use is, my license plates are all damaged up. I sent in a request for new plates, 6 to 8 weeks ago, and I received no word whatsoever, so
Really?
I'm not sure. But I don't think that there's no, and other people have complained about the Department of Motor Vehicles as well. There's no rhyme or reason as to how you get a question answered, and
Really? So
got off
some
subject
effect.
a little bit there, but I think that's part of the issue.
Right, downtown project, CCV looking to move
Yeah.
downtown this fall at some point?
Yeah, I think move in and access in November, move in late November, early December.
So by the end of the year?
Yeah, I think buildings look great. The apartment building, one of the apartment buildings on Maiden Lane looks wonderful from the out. They're starting to take applications for tenants as well.
Really? We're talking 60 units or so?
The one
the two
that's going to be
buildings?
completed for 60 through 2 buildings, and the one is taking applications now is the Champlain Housing Facility.
For the so-called, boy, the term affordable housing always gets me a bit, but
Right.
some of these are quote affordable housing
And then
units.
their market rate.
Market rate.
The other 30 are market rate, so.
Right. And again, of course, the plan, St. Albans PD to move into CCV's
They were,
current headquarters on South
Team-
Main Street.
Yeah, the team was meeting on that yesterday
Yeah.
with the engineer and architect to start working through the plans. So
Yeah.
as soon as it's vacated, they will start construction, and I don't know what the timeline is on that yet, but I know the discussion has begun, and they'll move forward with that soon.
So presumably, City PD, a new headquarters at what's now CCV headquarters next year sometime?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
For sure?
Yeah.
And what about any much discussion about new digs for the fire department? Of course, still down at the
No,
lower Weldon building?
It's pretty much staying there for now.
Yeah.
We don't have a plan in place. Well, there's been discussions, but nothing solidified,
Yeah.
so.
And Brendan, municipal building, big issue in the town. And again, voters, just about a month down the road, November 3rd, we'll be voting on a couple of municipal town hall related issues.
A lot of people are going to get their ballots this week, is what I hear. Heard they were sent last week. I haven't gotten mine yet. I don't know if anybody else has.
I haven't gotten a ballot.
So we've got two articles on the ballot. They're both $200,000 apiece. The first one is to buy a 5+ acre parcel off of Georgia Shore in the Bay Area to build a new municipal building that would last, 50 to 100 years. It'd be a 13,000 square foot, roughly one level building, no need for an elevator. It'd be no basement. And, it's in direct response to the voters' will. We put an article on the ballot in March asking for a sincere direction about whether or not the voters wanted their town hall to stay in the Bay Area. As you know, we've had a lot of volunteers. I could name them all. They sat in an infrastructure committee going back 2-3 years ago, and they looked at land all over town, and they settled on a parcel up by exit 19. And the public seemed to push back against that, so the board at the time decided to work on the Public Works Garage because they felt that it was a town-owned property. We needed to get the salt shed off the lake. We're building that right now, by the way. It'll be ready to use next year. We're gonna have to do one more winter with the current salt shed off Georgia Shore, but and we put an article on the ballot in March of this year asking the voters, do you want your town hall to stay in the Bay Area? And over 1,500 to a little over 400.
Yeah.
That was the vote, yes. It was overwhelming. It was almost 4-1 that said they wanted it in the Bay Area. So we took that, and they also gave us approval to use $65,000 of local option tax money, because every time we access that funding, we have to ask their permission. That's a good precedent that we've set. And we took that money and we started developing a proposal to keep the town hall in the Bay Area, but not at that current site. The septic system as it exists now is pretty well tapped out. It would cost probably north of $2 million to retrofit that building and make it as ADA compliant as possible with new bathrooms and an elevator. And we'd be lucky to get maybe 10 to 15 years out of it. So We can go down the street a ways and go to this lot on Georgia Shore and invest probably $3.5 million and have a building that, 2 generations from now they'll still be using, and they might not even have to retrofit it. We've got a lot
And
of,
again, no property taxes, that's the plan, no property
No,
taxes to
so-
fund this?
there probably will be a little bit of debt, but the local option tax revenue will be more than able to handle it. We make between $800,000 and $900,000 a year. We've, knock on wood, it's been a really recession-proof line of revenue for us through the pandemic. And that helped me make my decision as an individual board member that it was okay to leverage that funding. We're going to try to pay as much cash as possible, is my guess, but we'll probably still have to finance somewhere between $1 to $2 million. I wouldn't think it would be a bond. It would probably be a 10 or 15-year tax anticipation note at a probably remarkably low interest rate. And the local option tax revenue every year would make that payment, which would probably be around $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So we're in good shape. We'll still have $600,000-700,000 left to leverage by the time we're done. In 10 years, that building will be paid for. The Public Works facility was paid for with cash. Then we'll be able to turn our attention to actually putting that revenue to infrastructure that's intended to grow our grand list, which I think was the intent when the voters passed it. But when I ran 3 years ago, we said, or almost 4 years ago now, we said we wanted to tackle our deferred maintenance on municipal buildings. The Stonehouse was in terrible shape. The Bay Dock was not looking all that hot. In the town hall, there was not really a clear direction, but we knew that the employees needed a better place to work in, and our land records vault was almost full to the max. The Public Works facility had black mold growing out of the ceiling, and when it rained really hard, there was a stream of water coming down the wall in the Public Works Director's office. And our building that we stored some equipment in, the old fire station, looked like it was ready to cave in at any moment, and our salt shed was within a stone's throw off of the edge of our bay. So we tackled one, we're looking to tackle the other, and then we'll turn our attention to bike and ped infrastructure, water and sewer expansions if we can make that work, and we'll try to grow the grand list in a way that will drive up the local option tax revenue and our grand list to get more people paying property taxes in to help us cover salary increases. And you see the hospital got a 13% rate increase approved by the Green Mountain Care Board. And when stuff like that happens, it makes you think, well, maybe that's the reason why Blue Cross Blue Shield gets a 15% increase every year, and there's nothing we can all do about it. So, I've said it once, I'll say it again. I feel like I'm the president of the St. Albans Town Homeowners Association. There are a lot of things outside of my control, outside of all of our control. The cost of health insurance, having to give employees raises to keep and retain them and attract them. And, the cost of doing business, it just goes up every year. And, we need to get this town hall straightened out. Then we need to turn our attention to economic growth policy, leveraging the local option tax to achieve growth, and developing a long-term sustainable plan to keep taxes as low as possible. But when this is the last fire for us to put out, I would put it that way.
Okay, let's flip over to the city. Tim, as you see, as we get not too far away from 2021, biggest issue or issues facing the city at this point? Of course, you got a nicely renovated city hall, don't have that to worry about, but any kind of dominant issue you see down the road?
I think the dominant issue is funding infrastructure.
Yeah.
We have I think 4 projects that we're looking at putting on the ballot for March. They would include a couple TIF projects, Federal Street and Kingman, I believe, and then we need a new water tank up on Congress, so we'll have repetition there with the 2 tanks. One is not safe, as we found. It's not a matter of safe isn't the right word, but it's not. It doesn't work if you have a major water break like we did a couple of years ago in Fairfield. We drained the tank. Hospital didn't have water, so we're looking at some redundancy on the water tank, and that's I think a $3 million project in itself. We're continuing to look at economic development projects. As I said, a couple TIF projects would be utilized. We need to do something, move forward with Fonda. So I think those are infrastructure and funding them are probably going to be the biggest discussions as we move forward.
And with the police department, Morris Molamont, the interim chief,
Interim.
is that the correct? Again, any indication, and I asked him a couple shows ago, is there any clear indication whether he'll seek the permanent chief's job at this point, or is there movement on that front?
I haven't spoken to him directly, but other indications in my conversations with the city manager, I believe Mo is interested in running for the position.
Is there an active search for a permanent chief, or not at this
No,
point?
it's begun.
Okay.
I know that the city manager has reached out to the police staff, to find out what they're looking for, what traits are they looking for in a police chief. He's also, I don't know, if he was drafting the advertisement, looking for the employment advertisement. So I know that was close to being done, if not already done. So that was going to be submitted, and so we're looking at about a 3-month process. Personally, I hope Mo, I don't have any say in it. It's going to be a committee and city manager decision, but I think he's done a great job filling in for Chief Taylor.
That is a city manager appointment with the approval of the council, or?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yep.
Okay, interesting. We'll be watching that. Back to school, that's an issue we touched on. How do you think that's going? Not exactly your responsibility as mayor, but you have kids,
No.
obviously a huge issue for a lot of people.
I was encouraged by the fact that Essex was looking at going 5 days.
Huh, is that right? As in school 5 days?
In school, 5 days.
Oh.
And other schools have done it. I think your Catholic schools in the Burlington area have gone 5 days.
Huh.
I get it that those are smaller schools. It's easier to control some of the aspects
Yeah.
dealing with the COVID. The city school used to be one of the largest elementary schools in the state. I don't know if that still holds true.
Right.
But I think personally, I would like to have my kids go back more days, whether it's 3 or 4.
At this point, it's what, 2 days?
2 days, yeah. And then
Really?
you got Wednesday as a cleaning day, and then Thursday, Friday. But, and I get the situation the teachers are in. They're dealing with 2 different entities, trying to make it work.
Yeah,
But, it's, with my kids, it amounts to about a 3-day, when they do their homework, if you will,
Yeah.
it amounts to about a 3-day school week.
Really?
And the other 2, it's a long weekend is what it amounts to.
yeah.
And I know that, I don't want to be inundated with emails, but it just, the school's working hard, the school district's working hard, but from a family perspective with 2 parents at work,
Yeah,
it definitely is not ideal.
yeah,
So,
hear you.
but 2 days is better than none,
Right,
but 4 would be better than 2.
right. Brendan, again, we're about 7 months into the pandemic. How do you think St. Albans town, how do you think people faring generally okay? Are things getting a little closer to, I hate to use the word normal, but how do you think things stand 7 months into this?
I think we're in remarkably good shape, and we owe a lot of that to the governor's office. He's followed data and recommendations from people who know what they're talking about, and he's made common sense oriented decisions. I agree with the mayor that I'd like to see the school district take on more than the hybrid model that they've adopted now. I think that if you look at our local data, it doesn't support the model that they're operating under, but also, they're operating under guidance that they were given from the agency of it, the Department of Education, and French, and I don't know. I feel for people like Tim. It's not, and I feel for the kids. How healthy is it for a kid to not see half the friends that they grew up with? I mean, they're split into 2 separate groups. Again, I don't know. I'm not a teacher. I'm sure there are quite a few teachers with pre-existing conditions that are going to work anyway. They're just as well. They're heroes in my eyes. Difficult discussion to go through without being afraid of sticking your foot in your mouth, to be honest with you. So I'm going to pivot and congratulate the superintendent on his retirement announcement. He said that he's retiring for July of next year, I think.
This is Kevin Durth.
Yeah, so we'll have another, hopefully, community-engaged approach in looking for a superintendent. Last time out, it was very competitive. You know, we had interim superintendent Julie Regenbold, who's since been hired by the Missisquoi Valley School District, and we had Dr. Dearth, and they went with Dr. Dearth. I don't know what it'll look like, but you know, we can go back to proficiency-based grading and how this is all panned out and where we are now, and the community's very engaged in its education system for the first time in a while. And I hope as we come out of COVID, people start to realize that the town and city spend, I think, $5 and $9 million respectively. Our budget's about $5 million a year. The school district's budget to cover Fairfield, St. Albans City, St. Albans Town, and BFA is about $60 million. So, I mean, to be honest with folks, I hear you. I get the tax bills, same as you. But, you know, for the 20, 25 cents on the dollar that you give the city and the town, we keep your roads clear. We provide you with policing services, ambulance services, fire services, land use zoning, which is very important to the character of a community. You know, we do quite a bit with the money we receive, and, you know, we're always on the receiving end of, you know, my taxes went up. Yeah, I mean, the school taxes were supposed to go down with Act 46. You see now some of these mergers that were forced by Act 46 are coming apart around the state because they're not working as intended. You know, I think the first year that this new school district existed, taxes in Fairfield went up like 11 cents per hundred. I mean, I don't know. It's a mess. I'm glad I'm not on the school district board.
Down to about 3 minutes. Tim, what about the Fonda Solo site? Future home, presumably of what, the U.S. Passport Agency? Is that the plan? Is there work that needs to be done
No,
there?
it was the future home of the Rail America
No,
dispatch
I'm sorry,
center.
I'm dreaming, my mistake. Thank you.
And that came to on hold with the COVID situation. So we've got a plan in place in terms of what the infrastructure will look like: road, water, sewer, power. Looking at 3 buildings on site, 10, 20, and 50,000 square foot buildings. The rail dispatch was interested in the 10,000 square foot building, so that would be a start and a starting point for the area.
Thank you for correcting me. That's quite the operation. I mean, we're talking dispatching
Yeah, no.
all over the country?
Yeah, rail dispatch is probably the best kept secret in the area.
Really?
It's 70 employees.
Wow.
I compare it to air traffic controllers, dispatching trains for short line railroads all over the country, and a
Interesting.
few into Canada, actually.
Wow.
24/7, as you would expect. All well-paying, good-paying jobs. But they're in a building, the old railroad building on the corner of Federal and Lake. That's,
Yeah.
you know, just it's just obsolete. So they're looking to update. They were entertaining other areas, and the city stepped forward and along with FCIDC to put together a plan, and they accepted it. So we were excited about it, but once again, as with many things, COVID put an
Yeah.
end to it.
And-
Not I shouldn't say that. Didn't put an end to it.
And
Put it
just a
on, put it on
delay
hold.
to it.
Right.
And again, still, that delay is still there right now?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yep.
Anyway, hope that obviously change, you can get going on that and in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I
not
mean, we're still
clear.
moving forward, looking for funding. That's going to be one of the projects on the vote for March for the TIF. There's still brownfield cleanup, substantial brownfield cleanup. So we still have our work cut out for us. But if we can make that go, if the vision comes to reality, then it'll be a nice addition for the community, for sure.
Very good. Brendan,
Richard,
about
can I-
half, I'm sorry.
Just add, we as a council did endorse Halloween. I'd like to get that
Really?
out there, that, you know, that we think kids need something to look forward to. If people don't want to participate, they don't have to.
No, we agree. As Selectboard actually sponsoring a costume contest for town kids, starts tomorrow, ages 0 to 17. There's different brackets. Check out our Facebook page or give us a call. We'll tell you the rules. It's open tomorrow, October 1st until the 25th. The Select Board's going to judge every submission. We're going to award some gift certificates to town businesses, and we're going to give a small bag of candy delivered by a select board member to every single kid that participates.
Very good. On that note, we got to go. Brendan Deso, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman, thanks. St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, thanks a lot. See you in a couple of weeks, I hope. Big thanks to Roger Lindell, our producer. See you next time.